From Melbourne to Sydney. At the same time, we've got Charles Tarbey going all the way from Sydney to Melbourne. Hopefully he joined us now in the Melbourne CBD office. Welcome, Charles.
Oh, g'day guys, how are you doing?
Yeah, very good to see you. What are you up to down in Melbourne?
The usual festive season dinners and lunches, so I'm in between.
And you've got a fantastic view behind you, so that's all good.
Yeah.
Tell us about the auction numbers around Australia.
Oh, look, they're a lot lower than what they normally are, and that's what we're really looking for. We've been wanting them to get lower. I certainly haven't been an advocate for higher auction clearance rates because I've been concerned about price movement in both Sydney and Melbourne, but they're sitting nicely at 63.7% this week, which is great. This time last year it was 64.5%, so slightly lower than last year, but also slightly lower than this time last week. Sydney had the best clearance rate at 66.1%, Chris, and Melbourne followed with just 66%.
Certainly, and literally we've only got about maybe a week or so left of the auction numbers.
Yeah, we have, and everything's winding down, as you know, but still, it is a good time out there. People will be out there looking to buy, and people are trying to sell. Right now, everybody who's wanting to buy, Christmas doesn't mean anything to them. They just want to get a property if they can, and that's what's been fueling this latest activity that we've been seeing in most capital cities, particularly Sydney, Melbourne.
So right up until Christmas Eve at 6 o'clock, you can still be getting a deal done.
Yes, we will be. Yeah, I'm sure we will be, and over Christmas. So trust me, it'll also happen during the festive season.
So it must be interesting now with the homes advertised for sale. Is stuff still coming on the market?
Actually, this week and last week we've had a negative movement, negative 1.77% this week, which isn't a bad thing. I was expecting it might actually fall off a lot more, so it's great that it hasn't. Last week was 0.28% negative, so it's only slightly down from this week, last week and the week before. So going into the new year, I think we're going to have a lot more stock, and I do believe, as has been said before, it's a good time to look at property but also be cautious about property at the same time.
Now, what about the renters out there? Are many people out on the street trying to find a roof over their head literally just before Christmas?
Yeah, just a slight spike in the rent movement this week. When you look at the chart again, and we're winding that chart back to Sydney sat at 13.73% in terms of its increases over the last 24 months. Melbourne at 8.56%, and in Perth at 19.43%. And that gave us an average over those three capital cities in this last week of 13.9%. So it's only slightly up, but it is certainly up. And
then just finally, the vacancy rates.
Sydney's still the best performer at 2.51% vacancy rate. Melbourne came in at 3.35%, and Perth, good old Perth, 6.46%. So that's been climbing up and down. That's given us an average of 3.99% in the clearance rates across the country.
Wonderful, sounds good. Now we're having a bit of a special show on Melbourne, and we've got Bryce up here from Melbourne. How do you see the Melbourne market down there?
Well, I thought the Melbourne market had a bit of an oversupply of stock in certain areas. When you look around, it's probably one of the most progressive states in terms of releasing of land, and also a lot of apartments came on the marketplace over the last few years. Apartment developments that started a few years back sort of hit the market almost at the same time. It's a great market to be in, it's a great economy to be in, and it's also culturally one of the best cities in the world. So a lot of people will sort of migrate to here. I think it's an interesting area to buy in, but again, you've really got to start looking cautiously because there is more stock coming on, and you really need to be in a position where you can negotiate rather than rush in and just buy a property.
Now, in the last 30 seconds, Charles, the most important question is you had a bet with RP Data last year, or for this year, that Sydney would grow by 10%, and you were saying less. Who's won the bet?
Yes. I think they might just get me this time, Chris, only because we've had that spurt in the last couple of months. But I'm going to wait and see, because we had a negative market in terms of prices in the last month, median price. It might also occur this month. So let's just wait and see. One of us is going to lose a lot of money early January, and it's looking like me at the moment. Not happy.
And Tom and I will have a gorgeous lunch. Thanks for joining us, Charles. And thanks for joining us with Bryce Holdaway from Location, and Empower Wealth in Melbourne. Now, we'll be back next week. Until then, I'm Chris Gray. Good night.
The information featured in this program is general in